Hello everyone, welcome to MBA Karo. I hope you are enjoying this hot summer series for CAT 2024. Today we are going to cover an important topic which is reading comprehension, and it covers 2/3 of the verbal ability section, or you can say that of the overall paper. It is like you can call it a significant portion. About 1/4 of the paper is of reading comprehension, so 16 questions out of 66. So this is a very important chunk. Okay, and if you talk about the VARC section, this is the most scoring section in the VARC part. So if you've covered reading comprehension well, okay, you can do well on the VARC section, because VA has lesser weight, plus in VA you get questions which have no options also, like parajumbles and all. So the chances of getting those questions is correct is less. Now reading comprehension, if you look at the past papers of CAT, it covers different genres. In this video we are going to cover few genres, like we will today we will cover science and tech and nature and environment. Okay, so these passages we shall cover in today's class, and we will have further classes in which we shall cover more genres like history, arts, culture, psychology, philosophy, etc. Now the thing about this topic, that is reading comprehension, is one is not familiar with all genres. Okay, so some of you might be good with science and technology, but would find it difficult to understand arts and culture based passages. Similarly, a person from arts background might find history, arts, culture, philosophy, etc. easy to read, and would struggle in the science and technology passages. Similarly, someone might find business, finance easy and struggle in psychology and philosophy. So one rule that you must know is you cannot be master in all the genres. Of course, a person may not have these diverse reading habits. Yes, if you read regularly, you may be comfortable with different genres. But even if you are not comfortable with different genres, you need not worry, because the biggest problem in RCs is we focus on what? We focus on what is written in the passage. So as long as you focus on what is written in the passage, you struggle in that topic, right? Instead of what, focus on why the passage has been written. तो जहाँ से आपने सोचना स्टार्ट कर देगा why this passage is written, okay, you will be able to answer questions in a better way. So going forward, whenever you attempt reading comprehension, think why have they written it, why is the structure of this paragraph, right? Has the author presented some problem in the passage and then described its solution? Now the problem can be in philosophy, the problem can be in science, the problem can be in business, anything. Okay, so in this video I will tell about the structures of passages, and once you know these structures, whenever you read a passage, try to build the structure. Which structure is it? And then you will realize that it becomes comparatively easier to attempt the questions. Okay, so watch this video to understand those structured based reading, and then we shall solve some passages today. If you are new to my channel, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel for best content on all MBA entrance examinations. Now this is the schedule which we are following, and today on the 8th of June we are solving reading comprehension passages. If you have missed the previous classes, please visit my channel, go to this playlist Hot Summer, and you shall be able to watch those videos. And in case you are looking for a structured preparation for CAT, you can enroll in our CAT batch, and if you use the code HOT, you can get 20% discount, and you can enroll in the save for 20,000, in which you get live classes along with the recordings, and practice sheets which are topic wise, doubt resolution group, and full length and sectional tests, plus GDPI preparation if you convert, if you get calls from the top B schools. Okay, so in case you are interested in it, or you know someone who might be interested in it, please do recommend our institute for the same. So now we are going to discuss different passage types. Okay, so before you attempt any passage, right, before you start understanding it, like as I said, that you need not understand what is written in the passage. You may not be familiar with all topics. It is quite evident, right? I might be interested in science and technology, business, but I am not at all interested in psychology. Some other person might be interested in arts and culture, might not know anything about science and tech. Maybe the terms are altogether new for that person. So you will be given passages across different genres. Instead of understanding what is the data given in the passage, understand why the passage is written. So this understanding structure gives you that why the passage has been written, and you would be able to answer some of the questions or even all of the questions of the passage. So let us understand. The first type is descriptive. In these descriptive passages, the author talks about a topic and describe one trait at a time. So it describes different traits. Let us say a person can be describing some theory of philosophy, a person can be describing some scientific term, okay, or it could be describing the behavior of some animal, okay. So it could relate to, like, it can be describing the culture of a country, anything. So if you see these are the hints that suggest you that the author is describing something. First is the author will give examples repeatedly. For example, this, right? It will describe the features of the thing, like process, technology, anything. It will describe the features. So it will repeatedly give examples, okay, and will add features, like most important feature, in addition to. So these are the keywords that you will frequently find in the passage. They will talk about the features, characteristics, etc. तो जहाँ पे features या characteristics describe करते रहते हैं, right, and it keeps on adding points to it. That means it's a descriptive passage. Now another is chronology based passage. One would think it is applicable only in history, but that is not the case. It may also deal with some business strategy, like पहले ज़माने में कौन सी strategy चलती थी and how it is happening today. So it is not necessary that it is a chronological based passage is only in history. It can be in science also. Let's say it talks about the discovery of something, how was some phenomenon discovered, what was the things in the past and how it is going in the present. It can be some it could be some philosophy which is running in different places, okay. So any such thing which follows a timeline, that is a chronological passage. So in this they give you the dates. Often you will find dates mentioned, and you would find the dates mentioned in different in a particular order, like old things first and then newer things later. Okay, so it talks about initial days, what used to happen initial days, what is happening now, okay. So before, after, these are the kind of words, and you would be able to determine that that is a chronological order passage, because it is describing events in sequence. So whether it is discovery of something, whether it is arts and culture, okay, culture of a country, how was it in the past and how did it change to be what it is in the present, or whether it is some revolution. So it can be related to history, it can be related to arts, it can be related to science, business, anything, but it follows a timeline. So it shows that what happened in the past, then later, and now how it is going today. Okay, so that is chronological passage. Then another important is compare and contrast. Okay, so in this case there are similarities and differences between two topics. Okay, so what are those two topics? Now again, they can be related to science. Maybe the author talks about two different theories given by scientist A, scientist B, how they are similar, how they are different. It could be cultures of two countries, okay. So it could be something present, comparing something with the present and the past. It could be some philosophical theories, right? It can relate to any topic. Now see, these are not genre specific, these are structures that can be present in any genre. So in these compare and contrast, you will see that the author often discusses the similarities and differences. So usually क्या structure रहेगा, maybe one or two paragraphs. So paragraph 1, 2, 3 are talking about similarities. So one could be introduction, it introduces the topic. 2 and 3 describe the similarities. 4 and 5 describe the differences. So this could be the structure of the passage. So they talk about comparing and contrasting. Okay, so it talks, these are the terms like important keywords, although, however, these are some things that talk about contrast. Okay, so this is also contrast. Similarity, similarly means that you are comparing the similarities, just like that similarities. So you will often find words like these in these passages that suggest the author is comparing two things or giving differences. It is not necessary that it is just compare and contrast. It can be only comparison also, it can be only contrast also. ऐसा हो सकता है सिर्फ दो के बीच में differences हैं पूरे passages में, or it could be a mix of both. So such passage structure is called compare and contrast. Next passage is problem and solution. So this is again a very common passage type wherein there is a problem presented and there are solutions given to the problem. Okay, so इसमें क्या होगा, first paragraph में paragraph 1 will have the problem given, okay, or the introduction plus problem, then P2 will present one solution, okay, P3 might present third solution, right? Then it could be like P4 can given another solution, then P5 could be comparison of solution. So you need to understand that what is happening in the passage, right? Why the author has written the passage. You need to not understand all the context. आपको scientific theories नहीं पता होनी चाहिए. It does not mean that you need to know that science which is behind the passage, right? Or like some philosophical theory that is behind the passage. You need to understand how the passage has been structured. If you can understand that, right, plus some data points, what are valuable things given in the passage, you will be able to answer the questions. So in this problem and solution, the author will describe the problem, right? Initial problem describe hogi, and then the author might ask questions also. The question is that how this can be improved, etc. Okay, the author discusses the difficulty or the challenges. Okay, the author will describe the solutions and the answers. Like the author might present questions in the beginning and then give the answers. So the problem is given first, followed by solutions. So it can be different solutions, it can be just one solution also. So that is another important variety of passage structure. So as long as you understand structure of the passage, it becomes easy to answer the questions. So instead of understanding what is written in the passage, try to understand why the passage is written. Now this is also one of the most commonly used structures, which is cause and effect. So what happens in cause and effect is, so you give an action or event which is the cause, and that produces an outcome or a result which is effect. So some action is given which is causing something. So it could be some new technology that has brought some changes into the lifestyle of people. It could be some history based passage, right? It could be any genre. It is not necessary that it is only in science and tech. It can be in philosophy also, in psychology also. Okay, it can be in business also. Some cause, right? Some recent developments, and then the effect of it, right? COVID aaya, pandemic aaya, some strategies changed in the business domain. So it could relate to any of the genres. So all these topics that we are going to discuss, right? All the genres can have passages in this format. So it talks about the words like causes, effects. They give the reason, for this reason, as a consequence, in order to, if then. Okay, so you will find these kind of terminologies in that passage. So initially some action is given and that outcome is given of that passage, that is the effect. So know these 5 structure types. Whenever you read a passage, think इनमें से कौन सा structure fit बैठेगा. That will help you answer questions like main idea of the passage. You will understand that why this passage has been written, and probably some inference and other questions can be answered with the help of it. So now we are going to read some passages. Okay, so pause the video, read the passage, and then answer the questions after reading the passage in detail. So let's begin with the first passage. So here's the passage. It talks about language, large language models, LLMs. Okay, so read the passage. After reading the passage, try to categorize into the type that we discussed. Okay, and then answer the questions. So let me explain you the passage paragraph by paragraph. Okay, in case you are attempting the passage, read it on your own, then look at the solution. So it talks about large language models. Okay, so you need not know what are large language models. Even if you do not know what is large language model, it is perfectly fine. Okay, I told you that you need not be omniscient. You need not have knowledge about all these technologies. आपको AI नहीं पता, fine, right? You may be from non-science background, have no idea in it, it's perfectly fine. So let us understand what it says. These are large language models. Okay, so there are some large language models behind popular generative AI platforms like ChatGPT gave different answers when asked to respond the same reasoning test and didn't improve when given additional context, finds a new study from researchers at UCL. So it talks about a new research that says that LLMs, okay, so if you do not know large language models, fine. So they gave different answers, okay, and didn't improve, right? So it means that they are inconsistent. The study published in this, so this is irrelevant, right? Where it is published, you need not worry about the facts. So instead of understanding the facts, right? Facts आपको नहीं याद रखना है, बस facts ठीक है आपके personal reason के लिए. Understand what is the reasoning behind it, right? Why is the passage written? So it says that the study, okay, so it using cognitive psychology test to gauge their capacity for reasoning. The results highlight the importance of understanding how these AIs think before entrusting them with tasks, particularly those involved decision making. Okay, so what they tested the decision making ability of these large language models. Okay, now it says that the passage basically talks about that they are giving inconsistent answers and they are not improving. So what does it do? It raises questions on them. Okay, now it says that in recent years LLMs that power generative AI apps like ChatGPT have become increasingly sophisticated. Their ability to produce realistic tests. Okay, so now they have given that it has become increasingly sophisticated. Now we know that they have become sophisticated. This rhyme is irrelevant. ठीक है, आपको ये पढ़ने की जरूरत है. You need to skim through the passage. We know that they have become sophisticated. So in the next line it describes how. Okay, so yet these AIs have also shown to routinely fabricate information, respond inconsistently, and even get simple math sums wrong. So they have become sophisticated, but these are inconsistent in answering and get things wrong. So it says that, so what do we understand? It says that although these things are sophisticated, they do not have a they are inconsistent in answers. Okay, so in this study they analyzed whether 7 LLMs were capable of rational reasoning. Okay, so they gave that they tested the logic and probability. An irrational agent does not reason according to those rules. The LLMs were given a battery of 12 common tests from cognitive psychology to evaluate reasoning. So it describes the process, that how was they tested, how was the test done. So it says that, okay, so they had some task, okay, and Wason task, Linda problem, Monty Hall problem. So you need not know what are these problems, right? Some students think that I do not know about these problems, how will I be able to answer the questions? No, don't worry. If you do not have any knowledge about what are Monty Hall problems, what is Linda problem, not need to worry. So they were given some problems, and like in humans the tendency is low, like 14% of people can get Linda problem right, 16% can got Wason task right. Okay, so there are some problems that were given to these large language models. So these, what does it say? That the test had difficult problems given. The models exhibited irrationality in many of their answers, such as providing varying responses when asked the same question 10 times. Now it says that varying responses. So एक चीज जो मैं समझ में आ रही है कि it is talking about some issue, right? That the answers are not consistent. यहाँ पे भी दिया different answers. Okay, so it says that inconsistently. So what we get from this passage is, एक sum up करने के लिए, that these large language models give inconsistent answers. That's what we can get from this passage. Now next, they were prone to making simple mistakes, basic addition errors, and all these things. Then they have given example also, that whatever the errors in this. Okay, so now these are irrelevant. Okay, so we often focus on examples. You do not have to worry about the example. So what we've got, like so far what we have got is that they are inconsistent in giving responses. So basically क्या कह रहा है, failure of AI platforms, right? The problem solving ability इनकी बेकार है. That's what the passage is saying. While most humans would also fail to answer the Bayesian task correctly, it is unlikely that this would be because they didn't know what a vowel was. Olivia McMillan-Stock, first author of the study from UCL Computer Science, said, based on the results of her study and other research on large language models, it's safe to say that these models do not think like humans yet. So they are not as good as humans. That's what the study says. The model was with the largest data set, GPT-4, performed a lot better than other models. So GPT was like better than other models, suggesting that they are improving rapidly. So it says that like this was the large model, so it was improving. However, it is difficult to say that this particular model reasons because it is a closed system. I suspect there are other tools in use that wouldn't have found in its predecessor GPT 3.5. Some models declined to answer the task on ethical grounds, even though the questions were innocent. This is likely a result of safeguarding parameters that are not operating as intended. So what does this passage mean? The passage says that these large language models are not consistent. That's what they have given in the passage. Now what is the structure type, right? So basically you can say that it's a it could be, see, we are not presenting any problem, there is no solution given to it, right? There is a problem but no solution is given to it. There is no chronology involved, right? So you can talk about, it could be either descriptive, that you are describing, but you are not describing the features also. So the thing that remains is cause effect, right? So they are giving the cause. The cause is that there is like result of safeguarding parameters. So it is not a developed, not a fully developed, so that is the cause here, that it's not a fully developed technology, and effect is that it gives different answers or inconsistent or inefficient. Okay, so that is what the passage is all about, that it is not a completely developed technology. It says that it is still improving, right? So it means that the cause is that it is not a fully developed technology, it is still in the improving phase, and the effect is that it is inefficient and it fails to answer several even simple problems. Okay, now let us see this. The passage can be seen as primarily focused on, so it is talking about the primary purpose of the passage, raising concerns about the limitations of current LLM reasoning abilities, highlighting the potential benefits, right, of various applications, warning against the dangers of superintelligence surpassing human capabilities, advocating for a complete ban on the development and use of LLMs. So very simple question, it does not talk about ban of these, right? It does not warn about superintelligence. Okay, potential benefits. So it does not talk about the potential benefits here. It basically raises concern about the limitations of reasoning abilities. So that's what they are saying, that it is, there are a lot of limitations in it, right? So it's like entire passage, the examples are that very few of them got the answers correct. So this is the main idea of the passage. The passage suggests that a primary concern regarding advanced LLM is their potential too. Okay, so what is the concern regarding advanced LLMs? Overload human experts with excessive amount of information, so it is not a concern raised here. Okay, undermine trust in artificial intelligence due to inconsistent performance. See, the entire passage is about giving different answers, inconsistent answers, Okay, isn't it? So it reduces the trust in artificial intelligence. That's what it is saying, right? That people are using these artificial intelligence tools, but they are not able to give proper result. So it reduces the trust in artificial intelligence. Replace the human workforce with machines capable of completing any task. So it does not say that artificial intelligence is going to reduce the human workforce. Okay, lead to ethical dilemmas due to their ability to generate realistic but fabricated content, right? So you might get stuck between these two options, that ethical dilemmas, right? It does talk about that they produce fabricated content, right? If you look at this passage, somewhere it says that they produce fabricated content, but if you look carefully, it never mentions that that is a fabricated content. कहीं पे दिया है, it is I think given in this paragraph. They routinely fabricate information, right? That is given here, that yet these AIs have also been able to show routinely fabricate content. Okay, now this is just one part, one wrong thing on the part of artificial intelligence, but ethical dilemmas is not the major concern here, right? The primary, it talks about the primary concern. Yes, this is one of the wrong things about the artificial intelligence, that they are fabricating information on their own, but that is not the major concern. The major concern is that the trust in artificial intelligence is reduced because of their inconsistent performance. So again, this was a simple one. So if you do not know anything about LLMs, perfectly fine. Okay, you can easily answer the questions. Next question, it is given that the researchers' decision to use cognitive psychology tests designed for humans is an inappropriate way to evaluate the reasoning abilities of LLMs. Which of the following aspects of the passage most weakens this statement? So a statement is given that the researchers' decision to use cognitive psychology test designed for humans is an inappropriate way to evaluate the reasoning abilities of LLMs. What has happened is, like in this passage, okay, so we are given that, like if you look at this passage, this is, they have given some human psychological tests to these passages. Okay, now the question arises that this is not a proper way to evaluate these. The question is what is about this thing, that it says that the research decisions inappropriate way. Okay, it says that now we need to find the statements that weakens the statement. What is this statement? Says that it is inappropriate way. So how will it be weakened? If something that gives that it is it's a appropriate way. अगर कोई भी इनमें से कोई भी ऑप्शन कहता है कि this is an appropriate, it says the sentence says that it is an inappropriate way to evaluate the reasoning. So if any of the options talks about that it's an appropriate way, that will be our answer. The passage acknowledges the low success rate of humans on some of the tests used. Okay, so see, we are talking about the language models. Okay, so now if you look at this, so the passage acknowledges a low success rate of humans. So we do not have to compare the humans, right? We have to tell about the language models. Okay, so this does not strengthen that the performance of, see, if I say that humans have low success rate, that does not mean that LLMs have high success rate. The study explicitly defines a rational agent based on logic and probability. Okay, so it is saying that the study explicitly defines a rational agent based on logic and probability. Now this does not weaken this argument, right? It says that it does not mean that this is an appropriate way. The passage mentions the varying performance of different LLM models on the same tasks. Okay, so if it says the passage mentions the varying performance of different LLM models on the same task. So it talks about the inconsistency. Okay, so that again does not make it an appropriate answer. Now, if you look at the last option, it says the study's focus is on the reasoning abilities of LLMs, not their overall intelligence. Now, it talks about that inappropriate way to evaluate the reasoning abilities, right? Now, we need to strengthen this, right? Most weakens this argument. So this is saying that it is inappropriate way. An option which says that it is appropriate way. So it talks about that it is about reasoning abilities. Okay, it is not about the overall intelligence, it is just about the reasoning abilities. So cognitive psychology, it is designed for humans is an inappropriate way, and if this is to test the reasoning abilities, so that is an appropriate way to use it. So basically statement keh raha hai, this is an inappropriate way to evaluate the reasoning abilities. But if the option says that the study's focus is on measuring the reasoning abilities, that would be an appropriate way to evaluate them. So that becomes our answer. The final paragraph mentions some LLM models refusing to answer tasks due to ethical concerns. How does this detail most contribute to the overall argument of the passage? Okay, so last paragraph it says that while most humans would also fail to answer the Bayesian task correctly, it is unlikely that this would be because they did not know what a vowel was, etc., etc. So you need to tell that this detail says that some LLM models refusing to answer tasks due to ethical concerns. Okay, and you need to tell that how does it contribute to the overall argument of the passage. So it talks about, so basically the passage talks about the unpredictable nature of LLMs, right? Sometimes they give right answers, sometimes they do not make right answers. Okay, so it suggests a potential ethical dilemma related to development deployment of now this is ethical dilemma is there, but that's a broad context, right? That does not refer to this passage. It emphasizes the need for further research into the ethical implications of AI. Okay, so it does say that so let's first talk about that like ethical ethical dilemma is whether they should be used or not. Okay, so ethical concerns basically the data is manipulated or not, and it says that like what does it contribute to the overall argument of the passage? It suggests a potential ethical dilemma related to development and deployment of LLMs. It emphasizes the need for further research into the ethical applications of AI, limitations of current safety measures implemented for LLMs. Okay, and it indicates a potential for LLMs to develop independent moral reasoning capabilities. Now this is out of scope, it does not talk about any moral reasoning capabilities. Okay, And further research, yes, it talks about that they need to improve. So it says that they are improving rapidly. So now if you look at the summary of this passage, some models declined to answer the task on ethical grounds even though the questions were innocent. Okay, this is likely a result. Likely a result means that talks about the reason, safeguarding parameters that are not operating as intended. So it talks about that like if you look at this option, it says like if you look at the last two lines, this is what from where the question has been picked. Some models decline to answer the task on ethical grounds even though the questions were innocent. So why they are not answering? That's a result of safeguarding parameters that are not operating as intended. Okay, so that means that there are some safety measures in place. Okay, that that is the reason they are behaving this way. Okay, so so if you look at this, it says a potential ethical dilemma related to so it does not talk about the dilemma related to development of this, emphasize the need for further research, and now we are left with these two options. It highlights the limitations of current safety measures implemented for LLMs. So maybe these are it talks about safeguarding parameters. So there are some safety measures that are yet to be implemented. Okay, so like the passage says that the safety measures are not yet fully developed, and hence they have these ethical dilemmas while answering the questions. Okay, so here's the next passage. It talks about metals. So it says metals get softer when they are heated, which is how blacksmiths can form iron into complex shapes by heating it red hot. Anyone who compares a copper wire with a steel coat hanger will quickly discern that copper is much more pliable than steel. Okay, but scientists at MIT have discovered that when metal is struck by an object moving at a super high velocity, the opposite happens. The hotter the metal, the stronger it is, right? So first of all, it gives a present theory. Yeah, the previous theory which was said that metals are softer when they heated. Okay, so it says that copper wire is soft when it is more pliable than steel. Okay, so it means that it said that heating red hot makes metal soft, but what is now this is contradicting it. It says that new theory. Okay, old theory कहता है कि metal soft होता है. This is old. New theory says that it is opposite. It says that copper can be as strong as steel. The discovery could lead to new approaches to designing materials for extreme environments, such as shield that protects spacecraft. So now this new theory can lead to like designing new materials for extreme environments. Okay, so now it describes the new finding is counterintuitive and at odds with decades of studies in less extreme conditions. The unexpected results could affect a variety of applications because of the extreme velocities involved in these impacts occur routinely in meteorite impacts on spacecraft in orbit and high speed machining operations used in manufacturing. So it says that the new finding, how is it, so it has unexpected results and how it can impact things, right? So it describes the various fields in which this is going to help. The experiments the researchers used to find this effect involved shooting tiny particles. So it describes the experiment. So what it says that there is an old ideology and a new discovery. So this passage describes how the research was done. How research was done. Okay, and its uses, what could be the potential uses. While other researchers have occasionally done experiments at similarly high velocities, they have tended to use larger impactors. So how it is different from other research. Okay, so the tiny particles in the new study don't create a significant pressure wave when they hit the target. However, it has taken a decade of research at MIT to develop methods of propelling such microscopic particles. Now what it is saying that it involved shooting tiny particles. So previously it said that while other researchers they did similar experiments, they used larger impactors. So this new research is involving tiny particles. Okay, so they have developed these microscopic particles with high velocities. Okay, then this person shoots, he's some scientist, and how they have this is that how this research is different from the past that is given here. Okay, the tiny particles they used were made of alumina or sapphire and are very hard, doubting another scientist at 10 to 20 microns. Right, these are between 1/10 and 1/5 of the thickness of a human hair. When the launch pad behind this was hit by, so this basically talks about the research. Okay, now what is given in this passage is this basically, if you understand that why this passage has been written, so it describes a recent discovery. Okay, so this is about entirely about getting a new discovery of you would say that when we talk about discoveries, this is a descriptive passage which talks about a recent discovery, that how it happened. Okay, so now the question is, let's start with the questions. Okay, so this you need to just understand the gist of the passage. So basically the passage says that earlier metals were considered as soft. Now we have seen that the metals can be hard, and how this experiment was done, it was done by using like a sort of microscopic particles which were never used before. Now the first question says the passage suggests that traditionally blacksmiths shape iron by. Now you do not have to read the entire passage for it, it is present in the first paragraph. It talks about the traditional methods. Okay, so it says that so it says, clearly says that blacksmiths can form iron into complex shapes by heating red hot. So how did they? Extremely high temperatures, making it more brittle. So it is not talking about brittle, it says that they make it soft, right? So obviously they heat it, but that does not mean that they make it brittle. It clearly says that blacksmiths traditionally, so previous theory says that they were soft. Rapidly cooling, so this is opposite, heating it red hot, making it more pliable and easier to work with. So they made it soft by heating. Okay, special tubes, that does not mention. So it's a clear-cut answer given in the first line of the passage. So local question, not related to the primary concern here. The main reason the researchers used tiny sapphire particles in their experiment is. Now the question says, why is that they used the tiny particles? Okay, so it talks about, like, we need to understand why did they use tiny particles. The thing is, the particles which were used previously were different. They were not that tiny. Okay, so you'll have to see that why did that use tiny particles. If you look at this, while other researchers have occasionally done experiments at similar high velocities, they have tended to use larger impactors. Okay, because of these larger impactors were dominated by the effects of shock of the impact, there was no ways to separate the mechanical and thermal effects. The tiny particles in the new study don't create a significant pressure wave when they hit the target. However, it has taken decades. So it says that the tiny particles, what they do is they don't create a significant pressure wave. Okay, so that is one reason. And the particles bounce off the surface. The difference between the incoming and outgoing velocities, how much energy was deposited, which is an indicator of the surface strength. So they have given that they are used, they are made of alumina or sapphire. So when they are hit by laser beam, the material vaporizes and that propels the particle in opposite direction. Okay, so let us look at the options. Why did they use these sapphire particles? To minimize the pressure wave created upon impact with the metal target. Yes, it says that like it reduces the pressure wave. So if you see that the tiny particles, they don't create a significant pressure wave. This resonates with it. It says minimizes the pressure wave. Now if there is less pressure wave, the metal will that propels the particle in the opposite direction. Agar pressure kam hoga, okay, so they will propel in the opposite direction. So that resonates with the answer. To replicate the effects of meteorite impacts on spacecraft, this is out of scope, right? Spacecraft ki to koi baat hi nahi hui. To generate the highest possible temperatures during the impact, it does not mention about generating the temperature. To ensure the particles won't damage the metal surface significantly, again it nowhere the passage talks about damaging the surface, right? So these are all clearly wrong answers. It indirectly says that minimize the pressure wave created. So here if you see, this line gives you the answer, don't create a significant pressure wave. And another is like if they are impacting, they are propelling the particle in the opposite direction. That means the pressure is low, they will get impacted and propel in the opposite direction. Okay. Alright, let's see the next one. The passage implies that the development of the experiment techniques used in this research likely involved. Okay, so what do the experimental techniques likely involve? Okay, so it says that discovering a new type of sapphire suitable for high velocity impacts. They did not discover a new type of sapphire. Okay, what does this research involve? They did not discover any new type of sapphire. Inventing a method to vaporize large quantities of materials using laser. So they did invent a new method, but large quantities of material, right, that is not mentioned here. Okay. Designing cameras capable of withstanding the high temperatures. Cameras is out of picture. They do talk about that the team used extremely high speed cameras to watch, but they did not design the cameras. Okay, so that means option D should be the answer. It says perfecting techniques to propel microscopic particles at extreme speeds. That's what they have done it, right? They are improving the technique and they are propelling microscopic particles. Earlier the particle size was high, now the particle size is small. So that's what they are doing in this experiment. Which of the following applications of this discovery is most explicitly mentioned in the passage? Okay, so which of these applications is mentioned? If you see, they are talking about different applications. So it says that it talks about spacecraft in orbit. It talks about operations using manufacturing, sandblasting, okay, some additional 3D printing, etc. These are the applications of this discovery mentioned. It says that creating stronger and lighter materials for building construction. Does it talk about lighter materials? It says that talk about the experiment, but it does not mention that lighter materials for building construction. Building construction तो कुछ भी नहीं है. It will be helpful in manufacturing, sandblasting, etc. But not given here. Improving the efficiency of high-speed machining process. Efficiency की कहीं बात ही नहीं हो रही है. So that is wrong. Designing more heat-resistant coating for spacecraft. Yes, if you see that it says explicitly mentioned. Explicitly means directly mentioned. यहाँ पे दिया. The discovery could lead to new. ये वाला line देखो. Directly it says that it can lead to new approaches for designing materials for extreme environments, protect space hypersonic aircraft. So it will be used to protect spacecrafts, right? So more heat resistance coating, that is explicitly mentioned, directly mentioned. Enhancing the protective gear used in sandblasting operations. Yes, it has been mentioned here, but not explicitly mentioned. Explicitly means directly given, right? It says that it will improve these processes, like it will improve operations in manufacturing, sandblasting, but how will it improve sandblasting, that is not given, right? It does not mention that enhancing the protective gear. Yes, it will protect all these metals, right? Because what does this passage say? What does the new discovery say? The new discovery says that the hotter the metal, the stronger it is, right? So we are talking about the strong metal. Okay, strong metal will protect these things, but it does not talk about explicitly mentioned का मतलब क्या? It is directly given. So this is directly given. This is not given. I mean, they have mentioned that it will improve sandblasting, but not explicitly mentioned it. However, this statement has been explicitly mentioned in the passage. So I hope you are enjoying this passage thus far, right? So please do like the video. Let's move on to the next one. Okay, so it says that read this passage. It talks about starting in the 1960s, Soviet officials diverted rivers flowing into the Aral Sea to produce cotton in nearby fields. Without rivers regularly replenishing the sea, the large lake began to evaporate. So it talks about the Aral Sea, and it was present in the Soviet, the USSR, and how the rivers were diverted to produce cotton. So read this passage and then let's discuss the questions of it. So let's understand this passage. So it says that what did they do? The government diverted rivers to produce cotton in nearby fields. Without rivers regularly replenishing the sea, the large lake began to evaporate. So Aral Sea is a large lake, okay, and it began to evaporate. Why? Because rivers were diverted from it. Water levels plummeted and retreating sea left behind increasingly saline soil where regular crops could not grow. Today, cotton farming continues in an arid region that receives an average of just 4 inches rain per year. It's unclear whether the Uzbeki government will adopt the recommendations made by the satraps team. So satraps is an organization. You need not worry about it, right? So even if you do not know what is satraps, no need to worry about it, right? So satraps is Science and Technology Research Partnership. That's a Japanese organization. Okay, so if you do not know satraps, no need to worry. So it says that the Uzbekistan government is facing the consequences of it. Okay, so let's further read the passage. Now it says, but so far the country seems open to change. President, this is the name of the president, who promised to loosen the rigid Soviet era politics of his predecessor. So he says his predecessors ended the requirement that all Uzbek citizens pick cotton if called upon, and has spoken at the United Nations about the effects of desertification and land degradation of his country. So this thing led to desertification. So what they did was they diverted the routes of rivers in order to produce cotton. As a result, this lake, Aral Sea, was a large lake and it began to dry. Okay. Now climate change makes these adaptations even more urgent. Average temperatures in the Aral basin have increased by 3.6 degrees Fahrenheit since 1968. The shrinking of Aral Sea has affected the, so now this talks about the effects. Okay, ये cause the right effect, and the air has become drier, lost cooling. So these are the effects of it. Sandstorms now spread dust and toxic heavy metals. So you need not read each and every line in detail, just skim through it. So we know that these are the negative effects of drying of the lake. Okay, aside from Atriplex, satraps researchers are planting crops like, so these are different crops. Okay, so if you do not know what is sorghum, mung bean, so no need to worry about it. In test plots to learn which can best survive in dry saline soils. Now what they are doing is, this organization is trying which soil can survive, which can best survive. Okay, now because like the region is dry, so you need to find which crops can survive here. Okay, so far they have developed promising varieties of winter wheat and barley. They are also collecting satellite data to measure precipitation, solar radiation, etc., etc. Kenji Tanaka, a hydrologist. Hydrologist means someone who studies about water. Okay, hopes that water, rain, etc. STATEPS project can help companies and government agencies develop tools for farmers to use when planning out their irrigation strategies. So now they are working on their irrigation strategy also. So what does this passage basically mean? So this is of the structure problem solution, right? I told you one of the structures is problem solution. So problem described it. Problem is that, like, so that the lake has evaporated, right? So the region has become arid. Now the solution is how you can plant new species which require less water for growth. That's what is given in this passage. Okay, so that is the category problem solution type. Now it says that STATEPS partners are also running their experiments. So Karakalpak Institute of Agriculture and Agrotechnology has been testing different irrigation methods. So these are what they are doing. And the International Innovation Center, this is growing hardy plants in soil collected from former lake bed. A devastating sandstorm in 2018 which destroyed crops and killed livestock on a scale not seen before was a wake-up call for the region. And Uzbekistan's government began a strategy to plant saxaul, a halophyte. Halophyte means that can survive in less water. That is native to the area in the dry lake bed to cool down the soil and combat dust and salt storm. But researchers caution against the idea that the RLC can never be saved or returned to its former state. Instead, scientists are focusing on new forms of agriculture and industries that can help local communities adapt to the changes that have taken place as well as those still to come. So basically the gist of the passage is that in the 1960s, what they did was that the Soviet Union, they diverted rivers flowing into this RLC, which caused the rivers to evaporate, water level went down. Now the problem is given and the solution is given. The solution is they are trying to find out which plants can be grown to save the damage. So damage control karna, that's the solution given here, right? So they are trying to return to its former state. Okay, they are reforming agriculture and industries in that region. Okay, so that's what the passage overall talks about. Now the first question is, what is the primary cause of the shrinking RLC in the 1960s? So you need to tell that what is the primary reason. Increased evaporation due to rising temperature. It did rise, the temperature did rise, but that was not the reason. Diversion of rivers for cotton production, introduction of invasive species in the water, it does not mention invasive species. Devastating sandstorm, sandstorm kab aaya? 2018 mein aaya. So that is out of scope. So increased evaporation or diversion of rivers. The primary cause is diversion of rivers. So they diverted the rivers to different regions, and as a result that led to down in the water level. So water level isse kam ho gaya. So that is the primary reason. The passage implies a negative feedback loop related to the shrinking RLC. Which of the following best describes that loop? So loop means there is a cycle. ठीक है, एक चीज हुई, x leads to y, y leads to z, z leads to x again. So that is a loop. Okay. Now if you look at the loop, here if you see this line, it says that the shrinking of RLC has affected the climate as the water disappeared. Water disappear हुआ, air became drier, okay, and lost the cooling effect. Then creating a feedback loop. तो ये loop बन गया, right? So पहले क्या हुआ? पहले water disappear हो गया. Then it led to dry air. Okay, dry air means no cooling. and then no cooling, it result to hotter and drier weather. So hot, okay. Now sandstorm, okay, then that led to sandstorm, and then again the water depletion, okay. So retreating water has caused, so this is the loop that is happening, okay. Increased dust storm led to higher crop yields. So this is opposite, it is saying that the crop yield is low, right. Now the second one, it says higher water salinity, it does not talk about water salinity, okay. Drier air due to shrinking sea caused hotter temperatures leading to more evaporation, okay. So if you look at it, drier air, it led to shrinking sea causes hotter temperature leading to more evaporation. So dry air, that means hot temperature, and hot temperature means water is evaporating, more evaporation, okay, that's what it says. So if there is dry air, it is leading to hot temperature, and if there is hot temperature, water will evaporate more. If water evaporates more, there will be drier air, and that's a negative loop. Government intervention in agriculture disrupts traditional irrigation methods. It is a generic statement, it does not talk about this loop. The question is about the negative feedback loop. Loop means things are going again and again, like dry air, no cooling, hot temperature, that means again more evaporation, then more evaporation, again dry air, and then this loop goes on. So that's the loop that is being mentioned here. The passage mentions the use of satellite data by the SATREPS project. What is the most likely reason for collecting this data? Okay, so where does it mention the satellite data? So if you look at this passage, they are also collecting satellite data. Who? SATREPS. Satellite data to measure precipitation, solar radiation and soil moisture in the aral region, which can be used to help farmers decide which. So it is collecting data to help farmers decide which crops to grow, okay. So that's direct question, okay, it talks about that. So you need to just find where this has been mentioned, and answer the questions by reading the lines before and after it. To monitor changes in the size and depth of aral sea? No. To identify areas with the highest concentration of toxic heavy metals? No. Create a detailed map of irrigation infrastructure in the region? Okay, so let's read this. It says that, now these are the two options that you would look at. So irrigation infrastructure, future weather patterns and inform planting decisions. Now if you look at this, does it talk about the irrigation infrastructure? It says that they are measuring these and help farmers decide. So it is talking about irrigation, but it is talking about the decision, right? Planting decisions. Instead of saying infrastructure की कहीं पे बात नहीं हो रही है. It is not talking about irrigation infrastructures. Okay, so it talks about that. What are the irrigation strategies? There is a difference between strategy and infrastructure. So strategy means what planting decisions you make. यहाँ पे clearly दिया है, helping farmers decide which crops to plant. So that's a planting decision. It is not talking about the infrastructure. The passage can be seen as an example of the complex interplay between which of the following. So what does it talk about? Political ideologies and environmental sustainability, economic development, social welfare, technological advancement and resource management, cultural traditions and agriculture practices. So this is a very simple question. It does not talk about cultural traditions. Culture की बात ही नहीं हो रही, right? Agriculture practices is mentioned, but cultural traditions not mentioned. Technological advancement, it is not talking about any technological advancement. Okay, nowhere it says that. Economic development and social welfare. Does it talk about economic development? Okay, it does not. Also social welfare is nowhere mentioned. But if you look the first one, political ideologies. What is the political ideologies? Soviet officials. That means the government took this step, right? Now it talks about this person, president. Okay, so these are talking about the politicians, their policies. Okay, and like they should pick cotton. So it talks about the political ideologies or decisions made by politicians and environmental sustainability. So basically it is talking about that how political decisions affect the environment of a place. So that's what it said, that right, the Soviet officials, what they did, they diverted the rivers. Okay, so the political decisions, how does it impact environment, that is given in this passage. So it's a clear cut answer, that political ideologies and environmental sustainability. So it talks about the interplay between these, that how political ideologies impact the environmental sustainability of a country or a region. Okay, so these were some passages that we did in this class. I hope you learned something new, how to answer questions, how to understand the passages. Even if you did not understand the passage in detail, okay, that's fine, right? No need to understand each and every wording. As I said, that understanding what is written in the passage is not important. Understanding why the passage is written is important. So there is one passage for you to answer in the comments of this video. So it talks about COVID-19, some committee hearing on COVID-19. There are 4 questions on it. So do read the passage, pause the video, take screenshot, solve the passage and answer the questions related to this passage on the comments of this video. So today we learned how to read passages, right? How to understand the structure of the passage. We did science and technology based passages. Right now, one thing was related to environment, another was related to metals, right? Another was related to AI. So we saw that you may not be expert in all things, right? You may not know about metallurgy, right? How metals behave. You may not know about artificial intelligence. But if you understand how the passage has been structured, what is the main gist of the passage, right? You can answer the questions. You need not know each and every terminology. Okay? You need not know the facts. तो आपको क्या करना है, फैक्ट्स अवॉइड करना है. कोई भी पैसेज हो, यू नीड नॉट नो द फैक्ट्स बट नो व्हाई इट हैज़ बीन गिवन. ठीक है, व्हाट इज रिटन इन द पैसेज इज नॉट इम्पॉर्टेंट, व्हाई द पैसेज हैज़ बीन रिटन. सो इम्पॉर्टेंट दैट यू अंडरस्टैंड द structure of the passage. Okay, and role of paragraphs. What is, why is this paragraph given, right? Does it compare and contrast two things? Does it present a problem? Does it give a solution? Does it talk about a cause? Does it give the consequences, etc.? So if you have understood the role of a paragraph, you understand why the passage is written, you will be able to answer the questions, you will be able to eliminate the options. If you do not understand the terminology, perfectly fine. You just need to understand why a passage has been written. So practice this technique while solving passages, and we will be doing more passages in this series. So today we did science and tech, probably next time we will do arts and culture, arts, history, culture, those kind of passages, and philosophy, psychology, etc. So we will see different genres of passages in this series, and if you are enjoying this series, please don't forget to like this series and recommend it to your friends also who are preparing for CAT 2024. So I will meet you tomorrow with a new class. So keep watching this series and improve your preparation.